I recently got to try out the new Lumix S5 Mark II, the latest version of the S5, which I've been using for over a year now for my video work, primarily for this YouTube channel. So the S5 is already one of Panasonic's most impressive cameras, even though it's not the actual flagship, but it has become one of the more popular cameras right now among L-mount users, simply because of the great image quality it produces. And that's what led me to buying the S5 in the first place. I knew it had a few flaws, like the autofocus was a little slow and not the most accurate as well. For my kind of work, I found this is optimal because the image quality coming out of this is fantastic, the price was great, and I already had lenses because I used the Leica SL2. I already had L-mount lenses. It seemed a natural choice for me, and not been disappointed. I just love using this camera. Like I mentioned earlier, the Panasonic S5 has certain flaws, especially the autofocus system, and also it has certain quirks while using the IBIS. Even though the IBIS is actually quite good, but it has some quirks, like it has a wobbly edges of the frame tend to get very wobbly, especially when using a wide-angle lens, especially when using it on the move. But I think Panasonic has listened to its customers and the professional filmmakers using the camera and has done the great thing by introducing a new sensor with a hybrid phase detect autofocus. It's a 779-point hybrid autofocus system they've introduced into the S5 Mark II. So I was very curious to try out the S5 Mark II, and thanks to Panasonic India, I was able to get a loaner for a few days, and I was testing it for video, and I also did a bit of photography. I was also testing the new prime lenses, which I will cover in a different video. Boy, was I impressed with the autofocus. Hi, I'm Kamal Chilaka. Welcome to my channel where I talk about all things photography. So in this video, I'm going to share with you my initial impressions, opinion of the S5 Mark II based on my using it for a few days. And also, who is this camera for, and if you're already a owner of the S5, whether you should upgrade or not. So let's get into it. Here are the key features of the Panasonic S5 Mark II. Just like the S5, it has a 24.2 MP full-frame CMOS sensor. From what I heard, it's a brand new sensor because it has the hybrid autofocus system. You can shoot up to 6K 30 frames per second at 4.2.0 10-bit video recording in camera. And the other big thing is Panasonic has removed the recording limit because the S5 Mark II has got a built-in cooling system. There's a fan and there's a vent. So the recording limit has been removed as compared to the S5, which had a 30-minute recording limit in 4K and above shooting modes. So you can shoot up to Cine 4K, 4K 60p, although there's no recording limit in the S5 Mark II. It has, just like the S5, it has a 3.68 million dot OLED EVF, which has a magnification of 0.78x. It has a 3-inch 1.84 million dot LCD screen, which is very useful. And the big draw here is the 779-point hybrid phase detect autofocus system, which is very snappy. Just like the S5, it has 5-axis sensor shift image stabilization, but it has an improved version of that. And another change that Panasonic has done for the S5 Mark II is, so it now features dual UHS 2 SD slots, whereas the S5 had one UHS 2 slot and one UHS 1 slot. But I really never found that to be a shortcoming in the S5. I've never had a problem recording any of the modes using either of the cards, and has weather seal construction as well. So let's get a little bit more into the main differences between the S5 and the S5 II. Of course, the biggest difference is the 779-point the phase detect autofocus in the S5 Mark II. From my testing, the autofocusing on the S5 Mark II is brilliant. I can't say for exactly it compares to the Sony system or the Canon system because I haven't tried those cameras. But from my experience with my previous Canon 5D Mark IV and the S5 Mark II, the S5 Mark II is very snappy. very quick to autofocus, and it does a very good job of tracking as well. Definitely way better than the original S5. So the AF is fast and snappy, especially when using continuous autofocus AF, and the human and face tracking also works very well in the S5 Mark II. So that's a big plus, especially if you're somebody who does a lot of recording where you're moving around in the frame and you need to record yourself. So you're just shooting on your own, you want to record say a vlog. So the autofocus is pretty fast while recording video and using continuous autofocus. I didn't find too much of a difference in the autofocus speed in single frame shooting mode, especially for photography. It's probably a little bit better in that segment, but the big difference is in the continuous autofocus and while shooting video. Switches from near and far subjects so snappily that you may have to actually slow down the autofocusing in using the settings and bring down the speed and sensitivity of the autofocusing, which you can do on the S5 Mark II. So the other big upgrade is the ability to shoot up to 6K 30p internally to the SD card, which is again I think a big improvement. Whereas with the S5 Mark I, if you need to shoot in 5.9K, you need to shoot and record externally to an external recorder such as the Atmos Ninja V. So on the S5 Mark II, you can shoot up to 6K, like I mentioned, you can shoot up to 6K 30p internally in camera. I think if you buy an upgrade key, which is coming I think next month, you can also record to ProRes RAW and Blackmagic RAW using external recorder on the S5 Mark II. But internally, you can shoot up 6K 30p and 4K and 60p and above. There is an APS-C crop, so keep that in mind. The third big improvement in the S5 Mark II, I wouldn't say it's a big improvement. I would say it's evolutionary improvement on the S5 Mark II is improved IBIS. The S5 original Mark I already had a very good IBIS system, which was one of the draws of the camera apart from its image quality. Panasonic has gone ahead and improved that even further to reduce wobble in the edges while you're using edges of the frame while using wide angle lenses, and also it has got a new active IBIS mode, especially to counter the effects of the jerks when you're walking. So if you're doing a vlog style video, walking around with the camera held in your hand without a gimbal, the active stabilization actually helps. That's another improvement in the camera. Another small but important detail in the body of the S5 Mark II, it has a full-size HDMI port, which is definitely always better to have as compared to some mini or a micro HDMI port, because the connection is much more secure. Then you don't need to look for specialized cables. It just makes life a lot easier. Actually, there's another big improvement which nobody talked about in the beginning was S5 Mark II has got an improved cooling system. So it has got a new fan and a ventilation system. There's no longer any recording limits on 4K shooting modes. So you can shoot up to 6K 30p without any limitations. Whereas on the S5 Mark I, you're limited to 30 minutes of recording time while to prevent overheating, especially when you're shooting in 4K modes. So overall, there are a lot of improvements in the S5 Mark II, some radically good improvements and some evolutionary ones. So overall, the S5 Mark II is definitely a better camera, especially if you have a very active style of video making or filmmaking. But for somebody like me who is yet to even maximize and I think there are a lot of people like me who are just using the S5 for simple talking head videos such as this one, or for shooting light video, vlog style videos, or just doing some light tracking with the camera on a tripod while shooting outdoors. I think the S5 is still a very capable camera and the image quality is fantastic. There's not much difference in the image quality as such between the two cameras. So I for one I think I'm going to hold off on immediate upgrading to the S5 Mark II, even though I'm highly impressed with the camera. Don't get me wrong, it's very, very impressive camera, and it's what probably any of the S line of cameras should have been in the first place, with phase detect autofocusing built in. But anyway, better late than never. And finally, Panasonic has listened to its very passionate customer base and the professional filmmakers using the camera, and pretty much banged out all the flaws in the S5 and brought out a fantastic camera. and with the S5 IIX, which is also going to come out pretty soon, I think there's even space for all three cameras in the line to continue in the lineup: the S5, the S5 II, and the S5 IIX, which is really targeted at professional filmmakers with its ProRes and Blackmagic RAW shooting abilities, and also the ability to shoot to an SSD. So overall, I think the situation we are in is a win-win for us, the users who have chosen the L mount, and especially the Panasonic Lumix S5 series of cameras as a tool for our video making. I think there's a spot in the lineup for all three cameras at this stand, because they all have fantastic image quality, workable autofocus with the S5, fantastic autofocus with the S5 Mark II and Mark IIX. For one, I'm going to hold off because I don't think I've maximized the capabilities of the S5 I own. So I'm going to wait till I do that before thinking of an upgrade. Secondly, I would like to wait and watch, see what's going to happen with the flagship camera, the S1H. I'm pretty sure this technology is going to work its way into the flagship Panasonic cameras such as the S1H, Mark II, or S2H, or whatever it's going to be called. And also possibly the Leica lineup of cameras like the SL2 that I own. So if this is going to be a Leica SL3, it has an upgraded autofocus system, hybrid phase detect autofocus system, then I might actually upgrade my SL2 to the SL3. I would rather have two good cameras, one for my photography work, one for my video making, unless I'm thinking of a multi-camera setup in the future. So there are a lot of things, permutation combinations the way things could unfold in the future. So I'm going to just hold off and wait, see what Panasonic does and what Leica does. And sometime in the future, if I feel I need to upgrade, I might upgrade. But if you're thinking of upgrade, you need to think about, like I told you, how important is the improved autofocusing for you, how important is the slightly improved IBIS for you, also how important is the ability to shoot in 6K 30p internally, or in the case of the S5 Mark IIX, the ability to shoot in Blackmagic RAW and ProRes RAW. If that's the kind of workflow that you're looking at, then by all means, please look at those cameras. All are fantastic cameras. All the three models are great cameras. Let me know in the comments what you think and what you're deciding. I'd definitely like to know what you guys are planning as far as upgrading your S5, or if you're planning to get the S5 Mark II in the comments below. So I hope you liked that video, and if you did like my video, and if you like the kind of content that I'm making, don't forget to hit the like button, and also subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. I'll be out with a new video soon, a review of the 35mm and 50mm prime lenses from Panasonic Lumix, the f1.8 prime lenses, which are they're kind of video-centric lenses, but I've started testing them, and the initial results are quite positive, but I'll come out with a detailed review soon. So don't forget to follow my channel. Enjoy your filmmaking, enjoy your photography, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.